So I'm inviting a couple of folks forward, one at a time, and we'll start with both from my Disciple 1 class. Bobby Longobardo, he'll read our Old Testament lesson and give a testimony, and that'll be followed by Betsy, Lyon for our New Testament lesson.
Good morning. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw the Lord sitting on a high and exalted throne. The edges of his robe filling the temple, winged creatures, sorry, I got to put a little closer. Winged creatures were stationed around him. Each had 6 wings. With 2, they veiled their faces. With 2, their feet. With 2, they flew about. They shouted to each other, saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of heavenly forces. All the earth is filled with God's glory." The doorframe shook at the sound of their shouting, and the house was filled with smoke. With smoke. I said, "Mourn for me, I'm ruined. I'm a man with unclean lips, and I live among people with unclean lips. Yet I've seen the King, the Lord of heavenly forces." Then one of the winged creatures flew to me, holding a glowing coal that he had taken from the altar with tongs. He touched my mouth and said, "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is departed, and your sin is removed." Then I heard the Lord's voice saying, "Whom should I send, and who will go for us?" I said, "I'm here. Send me." Thank you. I give my testimony now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not getting off that easy,
All right.
Bobby.
Well, I like Bible study. And when we found out, my wife and myself, that we're starting the disciple class, it shows the Bible as it's relevant today. And I'm a history buff, and I had the advantage of going to Israel, and it just comes alive to you. I mean, things that you think are just stories, but these things really happened, and you learn that with this disciple course. It's just, you kind of look forward to going. You know, I play golf, and the guy says, "We got this thing on Tuesday night, you can come and play." I said, "No, I got to go to a Bible study." They look at me like I had 2 heads. But I really do enjoy it, and it's you get to know people, you make friends. I mean, and it's something that I think all of you, if you haven't done it, you should try it. And it's not that hard. It's a lot of reading, but you know what? You're reading the Bible. What's better than that? Thank you.
Good morning. A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Oops. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Jesus came near and spoke to them. "I've received all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you. Look, I myself will be with you every day until the end of this present age." Well, good morning, and I am Betsy, Lyon, and I have been a member at Markham Woods for about 2.5 years. I took the Disciples 1 class last year. I got my pin and everything. It's right here somewhere. When we did our celebration of completion of the class, Pastor Joe asked us, he said, "Why did you take this class and what did you learn?" So I thought, okay, I will try to answer those questions. Why did I take the class? I took it because I'm a person at this point in my life that I'm searching for something, searching for who I am and where I should be in life. I was a widow, retired, and where am I supposed to be? So I decided that I need to be here at Markham Woods with all of you and learning about God and growing my faith. And what better way than to join this lovely group who studies the Bible? And we did it for 9 months, every Tuesday, and it was great. Our group became very close. We formed a very special bond, and it's a group of people who support you and love you, and we all have grown together in our faith and just as friends. What did I learn? I learned that being in a group with Jody as our fearless leader was fun, and we were all thankful for his knowledge, intelligence, warmth, and humor. Thank you, Jody. We really appreciate that. I learned so much about the Bible and grew so much in my understanding of the collection of sacred texts. I also learned the discipline involved in doing this, taking this on, but well worth it, and certainly something everyone should consider if you have the time and are able to do it. I learned that we all can and should seek to be disciples. I learned that I must continue to grow in my faith and try to follow Jesus' example to love one another. What I learned best is said in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And so I would encourage anyone who has a free night and is looking for something to do or some way to grow in your faith and becoming more a part of this church, I would definitely encourage you to consider it. It's well worth it.
Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Bobby, for sharing testimonies of your experience. In 2 weeks, we'll have Connection Sunday, and we invite you to Anderson Hall after the one service at 10 a.m. that day. And we'll have information about how you can sign up for future disciple classes there, among many other things. So we have also a filmed debrief, for lack of a better term. I met with 4 of my folks from the Disciple One class, and we chatted for a little bit just the other day, so we're going to share that time together now. So direct your attention to the screens. How did you find overall the experience of being in the Disciple One Fast Track class?
I found it to be both educational, entertaining, interesting, and I can't say more than that, I guess, but some of the things that we looked at, or I looked at as I remembered growing up as a little kid, such as Paul's happening on the road to Damascus. When I heard that as a little kid, I always imagined him just walking along and just all of a sudden he had this little light or thought and he kept going. And that was it. But now I look at it and it's much more deeper and much more serious than what it was as I looked at it as a little kid. And it was things like that I maybe looked at whatever I was taught at that time, and what we got out of the Disciple One is so much different and so much more informative for me.
It was definitely very informative for me, and just a unique experience in reading the Bible and then coming in and kind of dissecting what we read and sharing all of our...
Yeah, all the footnotes are wonderful because, you know, as you're reading it and maybe you've read it before and it just didn't make sense, the good part is that you could always go and look at the bottom and try to figure out what that all meant. So that was a big help to me. I'd never used a study Bible like that before. Always read out of a
Context,
standard.
definitions.
Yep.
Maps.
Yes.
The maps were great because it really put you wherever it was happening, which was really neat in the whole terms of today of looking at the world and where they were. That was really
One
interesting.
of the things that I liked when I came into the room with everybody here, I really didn't know anybody else. And over the time, we all became, I think, very close. We shared things that helped enlighten what we were supposed to be doing here. And I found it very interesting and rewarding.
That was a special part of being in the group, was getting to know the people, and they became your friends and the people you loved, and you know, that's something that will stay with us always.
I think it was pretty much wide open, and when it came to asking questions, and the questions were received and answered in both a fun way, if it was a fun way, or if you or others was here that could expand on what the question and answer period was, if you want to like that. I didn't feel, I felt good about asking something. I didn't feel that not the other 8 people's going to stand up and hit me or anything like that. It was really a good time for me.
It was non-judgmental.
There
You
you
were
go.
allowed to ask
Yes.
the questions that you wanted to ask without feeling like, oh, what a dummy she is for not knowing that. We were all open to each other and to the questions that we had, interpretations that we had that may or may not have differed. And it was just, a real learning experience and a growth for me, and I think for everyone.
That this class is a way to reintroduce people to the Bible and to make some surprising discoveries. Related to that, I wonder what you all have discovered about the scriptures that we studied, whether it was in one particular passage or one story, anything at all that stuck out about your experience of the scriptures during Disciple One Fast Track.
I remember coming in sometimes and being sad about what I read. I just thought, wow, that was really awful. And the loving God that I know, why did he let this happen? And so often we all ask that in this crazy world, and we had answers. We kind of have answers. We don't have all the answers, and I don't think we'll ever have all the answers. And that's something that I learned, and it was good for me to know that. But I did come in sad sometimes and say, wow, that was really heavy. That was just overwhelming. And then other times you were overjoyed with what you read, and it was just very interesting.
I think that when that happened, I know that we called each other during the week as we were reading. It's like, have you read this book yet?
Yeah,
we met on Tuesdays, and on Sunday we'd see each other in church, and have you started doing the reading
that's
yet?
right. We're
And then
like,
went,
whoa.
yeah, oh my goodness, this was
Yeah.
bad stuff. But then on Tuesday we showed up and we got together and we kind of worked through it and said, geez, this is what happens when you don't follow what God tells you to do. So there were
Meant
some
for an open, lively discussion, lots of questions, lots of taking the Bible and comparing it to the reality we live in today. Everybody brought their own life experiences to the table, to the study of the Bible. I came wanting to learn more, to kind of play catch up with the family I married into and all the kids we've adopted, and try to learn more about what else God has planned.
Did you get a sense that there are plans that God has for us from your study of the whole Bible?
One of the very interesting things that we did at the end, and I didn't know we were going to do this at the end, was each of us were kind of dissected at the end. We were told what our strengths were, and we're kind of helping us and telling us where we should go and what we should do next, because I know for me, I'm searching of where I should be and what I should be doing at this point in my life. And I know a lot of us are every day almost. And so this was a way to find out what is your direction. And we all helped each other. We all trusted each other and had gotten to know each other. So at the end of this, we were able to really be able to tell each other how we felt about them and where we thought maybe that's the direction that we should be going.
One of the classic interpretations of Scripture is the reminder that humbles us all that as much as we try to interpret what the Bible is saying, it is really the Bible that is interpreting us. So as we have done that together through Disciple One Fast Track, you mentioned that, Betsy, about how you were surprised by this ending of assessing what your own spiritual gifts are and how to nurture those in service to Jesus Christ in the church. So what gifts do you think that maybe you didn't know about before that you know about now? Do you remember?
I was a little surprised that my first gift was mercy, compassion, and acting on that. But I guess anyone else looking at my life and looking in, or the group that we'd spent so much time with, would say that wasn't questioned. And maybe it's how you see yourself and the fellowship that we built up over time that really gave you the ability to trust these people who are not necessarily your best friends, but came into your life as strangers and now really care about where you are on the path with God and where you're going in the future, what you have to contribute to this world.
So we're missing some of our friends here. Bobby Longobardo will be speaking, if he hasn't spoken already, in this worship service. And Lou, his wife, was very colorful, and we all got a chuckle because often before we even said the first word, she already had a question. So we thank Lou for helping us often get the conversation rolling with questions. And I wonder if you all felt more emboldened to ask questions of Scripture by your experience.
We asked the questions as we read it. We were given questions from the work, and then we questioned it against our reality. So there was a lot of lively discussion about current events, what was in the news, what was happening in our community, and how all that led back to God's word and how we need to interpret it or try to act and not just sit by.
And sometimes when we got there, there were other things in the world or in our lives that were more important than what we were doing here that sort of related to this. But we went that way. You let us go that way. And we talked about the things that were most important. And those were, memorable and important
And help
nights.
each other.
Yes, yes.
And we also see how history repeats itself. So things that we read about in the Old Testament happened in the New Testament and happened today. So all these killings and stuff that are going on, it still continues to happen, and maybe for different reasons, but it's still happening in this world today.
Yeah.
What changed about your path to discipleship through studying disciple?
I think with me, it showed me that the church leadership, that the members are real. That a lot of this is not just fluff to make everybody look good or feel good, but that the folks around here are definitely real when it comes to worshiping God and as we know Him.
I think we all came into this wanting to study the Word and stuff, and we came out with a fellowship and a knowledge that the people sitting next to you in the pew aren't just taking up space. They care about you. There's other things, dinners and all that at church where the fellowship gets built up. But you really make some good friends and people who care and pray for you when you join and you try to study the Word or help out in different ways at church.
Wonderful. Any other closing thoughts? Don't feel like you have to speak, Mark and Betsy, but
The one thing I wanted to put in here somewhere was that I had gone with the church to the Holy Land 4 years ago, and without having read much of the Bible, and we were fortunate to go back last year, and it was about 6 weeks into the Old Testament, and to go and see it in person, it just all came alive. So it's one thing to hear about what goes on or what it's like over there. It's another thing to go and to actually be into the Word, and now having gone through the Old and New Testament, to want to go again. So we'll see how that goes.
I want to go now. I mean, I did want to go before, but now I really want to go. So.
now that you know the words, you want to
Yes.
tie them to the place.
Yes.
The map was sort of a teaser, right?
Yes.
Right. Very good. Well, let me join you. I'm going to come in between Mark and Jill here, just to say that it was a joy for me to be with you all, and I certainly look forward to doing something further. And I appreciate you all taking the time to share your experience of Disciple One Fast Track. And you all were great, and I hope that that as we continue to walk the disciple path, that we'll do it together. We'll do it with the Word in one hand and the newspaper in the other, or the internet in this case, and that we will realize as a church that discipleship is a team effort. So thank you again, and let's close by waving a peace sign at the camera. Peace. See y'all later.